Direct News TV. March 1, 2024. Israel's war on Gaza live. Biden says U.S. will airdrop aid to enclave. U.S. President Biden announces military airdrops of humanitarian aid to Gaza, as who says Palestinians are risking their lives to find food, water and other supplies amid the unrelenting Israeli assault. 7 captives were killed as a result of the Israeli military's bombardment of Gaza, according to an Qassam Brigade spokesperson. CNN staff criticize network for Gaza coverage in meeting, report. An all-hands meeting held by the U.S. media network became an opportunity for several staff members, including star presenter Christine Amanpour, to criticize its coverage of Israel's war on Gaza, with many reflecting external criticism that the network has been biased towards Israel. A recording obtained by The Intercept revealed Amanpour speaking of her real distress with CNN's editorial process when it comes to coverage of the Israel-Palestine conflict, before she added that the network should have sent more experienced reporters to the region to cover the war. Other staffers went further in their criticism, with one journalist who worked from Lebanon last year saying that she found CNN platforming people over and over again, that are either calling for my death, or using very dehumanizing language against me, and people that look like me. I want to ask as well, what have you done, and what are you doing to address the hate speech that fills our air and informed our coverage, especially in the first few months of the war, the journalist added, according to The Intercept. CNN editor-in-chief Mark Thompson defended the network's coverage in the meeting, saying that he was generally satisfied with it, and adding that it had been difficult to cover the Palestinian side because of a lack of access to Gaza. Bernie Sanders calls for U.S. to pressure Israel on aid. The progressive U.S. senator said Washington had a responsibility to compel Israel to allow more aid in. The United States, which has helped fund the Israeli military for years, cannot sit back and allow hundreds of thousands of innocent children to starve to death, Sanders said in a statement. As a result of Israeli bombing and restrictions on humanitarian aid, the people of Gaza are facing an unprecedented humanitarian disaster. Whether Netanyahu's right-wing government likes it or not, the United States must immediately begin to airdrop food, water, and other life-saving supplies into Gaza, Sanders added, before Biden made his own announcement that the U.S. would be conducting humanitarian aid airdrops. UN, many victims of Gaza City attack have gunshot wounds. During a visit to Al-Shifa Hospital, a team from the United Nations was able to confirm that many people being treated there who were victims of Thursday's attack near Gaza City had gunshot wounds, said Stéphane Dujarric, spokesperson for the UN Secretary-General. Speaking to the press at the UN headquarters in New York, Dujarric said the UN team observed a large number of gunshot wounds at the health facility, where many of Thursday's wounded were taken. While an Israeli military official conceded that troops opened fire at some Palestinians who moved in a way that endangered the troops, the Israeli army has blamed the aid seekers' deaths on trampling, crowding, and Gaza truck drivers. Witnesses of the attack told Al Jazeera they were hit by direct Israeli artillery shelling, drone missiles and gunshots. U.S. to work on maritime corridor for Gaza aid. More U.S. announcements on aid into Gaza, this time from White House spokesperson John Kirby. He said Washington would redouble its efforts to establish a maritime corridor to get humanitarian aid into Gaza, and would continue to push Israel to facilitate more trucks going in and more routes being opened. Kirby said Cyprus could potentially be used as part of the maritime corridor and added that Thursday's attack by Israel on Palestinians waiting for food aid in Gaza City underscored the need to continue to find alternative routes for getting aid into Gaza. Israel, and by extension the U.S., have come under intense global criticism for Thursday's attack, which has put the spotlight on the plight of Palestinians in Gaza, with food and water scarce. Chief of U.S. government's top aid agency, Israeli settler violence, must stop. Samantha Power, head of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has shared footage of a visit she made to a Palestinian youth center in the occupied West Bank that has been shuttered due to frequent attacks from Israeli settlers. Repeated attacks by extremist Israeli settlers have forced its doors to close and sent shock waves of fear through the community, Power wrote on X, "This violence is intolerable and must stop." More from Biden, U.S. airdrops in Gaza to start in coming days. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Biden said the U.S.'s humanitarian aid drops into Gaza will begin in the coming days. He also said the U.S. was continuing to work towards a ceasefire that would allow even more aid to flow into the enclave. However, he previously acknowledged that the killing of at least 115 aid seekers in northern Gaza on Thursday, after Israeli forces opened fire in the area, could complicate these efforts. The current amount of aid getting into Gaza, Biden said, is not enough to meet people's needs, and he wants to see hundreds more aid trucks get in. Survivor shares account of Gaza flower massacre. Yusri al-Ghul, a Palestinian author who witnessed the mass shooting of aid seekers by Israeli forces, says people facing hunger in northern Gaza often head to the Nablus area in southwest Gaza City, where assistance trucks occasionally arrive during the absence of UNRWA and other humanitarian agencies. He said Israeli forces target Palestinians there daily, but the scale of the violence early on Thursday was unprecedented as Israeli soldiers methodically opened fire at people with the aim to kill. Al-Ghul told Al Jazeera in a voice note that Israeli snipers shot hundreds of victims in their upper bodies, in the chest and the head. "It was a massacre, which is incredible. We were waiting just to get food," he said. "We don't have food. There's starvation here in North Gaza. Even the food of animals, we don't find it. We're just eating plants." UNRWA, Gaza's water supply down 93% since start of war, 1/4 of wells destroyed. The stark decline in water has pushed many Gaza residents, particularly in the north, to the point of severe dehydration. In recent days, at least 6 Palestinian children have died from either dehydration, starvation or poisoning, according to Gaza's health ministry. Galloway says UK election victory shows growing public support for Palestinian rights. Galloway, who ran for parliament in the northern English town of Rochdale on a pro-Palestine agenda, says his victory has rumbled the UK's political class and shown rising public support for Palestinians. "The political class in Britain are in a state of panic, both the Conservatives and Labour," Galloway told Al Jazeera. "The toxic bubble of the political and media class virtually supports the genocide against the people of Gaza. But when you burst that bubble, you discover that among the general public, most people's sympathies are on the side of the victims, not the perpetrators." Galloway, a veteran politician who previously served 6 terms as a member of parliament, promised to use his platform to lobby for Palestinians suffering in Gaza. "I believe I am speaking for millions of people in Britain whose hearts are broken, whose guts are wrenched by the slaughter in Gaza," said Galloway. "I promise to do my best, in Parliament. I promised, former Palestinian President Yasser Arafat in 1977 that I would never leave the Palestinians alone. And it's a promise I've kept. I'll keep it until my final breath." UK PM Sunak signals crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrations in chilling speech. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says that the UK has seen a shocking increase in extremist disruption and criminality, in a speech delivered a week after the country's parliament descended into chaos during a vote on a ceasefire in Gaza. Sunak denounced what he perceived security threats against members of parliament, as well as the victory of left-wing George Galloway in a by-election on Thursday. The Conservative Prime Minister's hardline speech conflated elements of the UK's large pro-Palestinian movement with extremism, saying that Islamist extremists and the far right were two sides of the same extremist coin, before also threatening foreign students with deportation and promising to increase support for a much-criticized anti-extremism program. Sunak's speech has been denounced by left-wing politicians and commentators, with Labour parliamentarian Nadia Whittome calling it a truly chilling speech. "The mask has really dropped," said Green Member of Parliament Carolina Lucas. "If there were any doubt who the real extremists are, it is Sunak's government, threatening to take visas off protesters and stirring up anti-Muslim hate." Palestinians injured in Gaza City attack receive treatment in Jabalia. The Palestine Red Crescent Society has released footage of its medics in Jabalia attending to Palestinians wounded in Thursday morning's attack. They are among at least 760 wounded in the attack on top of at least 115 killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry's latest tally. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.